Hey everybody, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome back to another episode of The Unsolved Couple, where every week my handsome co-host and I tell you about one of the original gateway drugs into true crime.
Unsolved mysteries.
You're really pulling out the daddy voice today, aren't you?
Let's not say that. I don't like that term.
Are you sick of listening to my song yet?
Wait, are you keeping that intro?
Yeah, I'm keeping that intro. The people need to know what happens behind the scenes.
Sometimes we do it a few times. You know? And sometimes I don't know which ones you're going to keep. Yes, I am. I'm tired of your song, but I understand. I get it. When you find a song you like,
I have a new obsession.
When you find a song you like, you got to listen to it. You listen to it a lot.
I think this singer's been popular for a while. It's the girl that sings Pink Pony Club, but I had never heard that song. And you and I were in Nashville, in February?
Yep.
And every single artist covered that song.
Yeah.
We heard it nonstop while we were there.
What's the artist's name?
I don't know. I think it starts with a C. Chappelle.
Chappelle. Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle sings it. No, but yeah, I had it on playing the other day in the kitchen, and automatically our our home device system that I can't say their name right now because it's also in the room with us. And if I say it, they're going to start playing the song or something. But I requested that song to be played. And so then automatically afterwards, it started playing other hits of hers.
Chapel.
Roan with an N.
Yep. Roan.
As in nickel?
Yes.
Roan. Chapel Roan. And so I have not heard a song of hers yet to date that I'm not like instantly obsessed with, but Hot to Go, I've probably listened to it in the last 24 hours 50 times.
I don't think that much, but
well, you have not. I do have a life outside of when I spend time with you.
Interesting. What is that like? Who's involved?
I listen to Hot to Go in the car while I'm driving around.
Interesting. I didn't know you had a second life.
But everyone, I have so many lives. But I just assumed, I know for me, when I find a new song, I will listen to it on repeat for weeks on end. And then it kind of falls off the bandwagon.
And you find a different song.
And then it rolls over to something else. Or a new podcast or da-da-da-da-da. Sniff. Yeah. I'm going to start calling Ben out every time he does that.
It's allergy season.
I apologize, guys. Yeah. I try to catch as many of them as I can when I edit, but there's nothing I can do. We are humans. We are not AI robots.
I don't apologize. You don't get an apology from me. No one.
It's because you're not the one that has to edit all of them out.
Well, don't edit them out. I have no shame. No shame in my sniffs.
Well, I think everyone was fully aware of your lack of shame early on in this adventure.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of shame in my life.
Okay, we're going to jump into today's episode pretty quick because we have 5 stories to cover.
Yeah, so I think multiple of them are going to be quick.
Yeah. So Ben is actually going to start us off because I took one of the longer ones. So he's actually going to tell us 3 stories today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we all get to sit around and listen to Daddy tell us stories.
Stop saying that. Do not like that. All right.
I'm going to call you Daddy Unsolved Mystery.
I will quit this.
Daddy Robert Stacks.
I will quit this podcast so fast.
So fast.
All right. Are you ready?
All right, Daddy Podcast. Go ahead.
No, you keep that up. We're going to turn this off right now. All right. We're going to learn about Jeffrey Harding in the 1940s. He tells us, first off, the way Robert Stack introduced.
Ben got 3 seconds into telling that story before.
Well, this is still part of the story.
Okay.
The way Robert Stack started out with this story, he tells it as, couldn't you imagine if you were sitting there watching a show and come to find out that you were adopted and that your family is looking for you? So he's saying this like this has happened.
Yeah, I was
and then he go on
aware that Ben's going to give us a spoiler right at the top.
And then he's going to go on to say, well, that could be one of our viewers. I'm like,
Mhm.
so that didn't happen?
It didn't happen.
But that's what they're trying to make happen.
Yeah.
Is that this is another lost love.
Ben's favorite.
But it's kind of, there is a crime involved
There
here.
is a criminal element involved.
There's a kidnapping involved. All right. Jeffrey Harding, his mother tells him, I think he said he was 8 years old, that his mother proceeds to tell him he had an older brother who was kidnapped in 1944. And this was in Chicago. They said on June 30th, 1944, she needed to go to the grocery store. She goes down with her 10-week-old son, whose name was Lawrence
He's
Harding.
in the little baby carriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She puts him in the stroller, rolls him down to the store. She's doing her shopping. And she says while she's at the store, these two teenage girls come up and just start saying, oh,
oohing and on over the baby.
That's a
which
cute little baby, whatever. You know, she said they were harmless.
And having had, especially like we have twins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our daughter was born with club feet. So I got some snarky, rude comments about her cast, but you could tell that we had a lot of people come up to us when we had babies. And I would have, I guess, never thought anything about, especially two teenage girls coming up and oohing and awing over a baby.
Yeah. So she starts heading home and she says she noticed the girls were behind her, but I'm going to guess a lot of people walked around.
They're walking around in the neighborhood.
Downtown Chicago. So she gets to, it looks like an apartment complex, apartments of some sort. And her neighbor is out on the back patio doing something.
On the second floor.
Yeah. And says, hey, can you watch Lawrence while I run the groceries up? And she goes, okay. And she goes to take the groceries up. Next thing you know, the teenage girls snatch the kid and run off. And the neighbor starts yelling and the mom comes out and chases him.
Yeah.
So chases him down. She gets to an alleyway and loses him. So obviously it calls the police. Everyone gets involved. The FBI get involved. And
I wonder when the FBI started getting involved with children, like kidnapping cases. I don't think that's something that they did at the very beginning. Do you? You have no idea. Good question. I asked Ben there. Okay.
Well, if I don't know, I just don't know. You know, I'm not an FBI historian.
Oh, you're not?
No. I'm not. All right. She says 3 days later, she got a phone call, like taunting them, saying, I have your baby. I'll bring it back. I mean,
this is like standard run of the mill. Somebody always has to write a letter, make a phone call.
Does something just horrible.
People are sick out there.
Yeah, 100%. So she said they searched for 4 weeks and found nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. This is the 40s. I'm sure there's not a whole lot to go on. So this has been, once Jeffrey heard this story, he said it stuck with him his whole life, obviously.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine your parents telling you, BT dub, you have an older sibling, but they were kidnapped from the front yard and we just like never talked about it?
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. So he makes this kind of his mission. He starts looking into it. In 1986, he finally got the original FBI file due to the Freedom of Information Act.
And this takes a turn I was actually not expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he ends up hiring a private investigator called Paul Rigsby, and they start going through the file and reading everything. And they found something that they thought was interesting. They said the FBI had interviewed some people at a train station, some porters at a train station. Not quite. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know what a porter is?
But at a train station.
Yeah, they're the people that like all aboard. They're like the people that conduct the train, like the goings, tos, and froms.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Watch that be wrong, but that's what I thought it was.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's a story told that there was an older lady on the train platform. A teenage girl comes up and says, "Hey, can you watch my baby? I have to run to the bathroom." And she says, "Okay, but hurry. The train is about to
Take
get
off.
going. I need to start boarding." So she's standing there with the baby, waiting. It comes time for her to board. So she boards with the baby. And
what would you do?
I don't know.
If someone hands you a baby and then your train is taking off.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you do?
Well, you can't just put it on the ground.
No, I don't know. But
if you leave with it, then you look like you have kidnapped a baby.
Every
scenario in this is a bad.
All situations are bad here. All of them. Every single one.
I know.
And every solution is bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I honestly don't know. So she gets on the train. And
I think she said she assumed that the girl would also be on the train.
Yeah, she gets on the train because she thought the girl would be on the train. So she starts on the train looking for the mother, and doesn't find her. The train goes to St. Louis. She gets off. She talks to some porters and tells them this story and says, "Hey, is anyone looking for a kid?
Anyone looking for a baby?" And she even says, because then I think her second thought is maybe she missed this train, but there was another train coming behind them.
Yeah.
That if someone comes in on the next train, this is where I will be.
So she says, "Well, I'm going to Magnolia, Arkansas. I already have 9 kids.
What's one more?
What's one more?"
Can you also then imagine being the wife that comes home and is like, "Hey, here's a baby somebody gave me."
This whole story is just wild. Everything
I will
about
be honest, when I first heard this story, I missed the part that they had gotten it from like the police investigation or the FBI files. I thought at first that this was like, there's no way that this absolutely happened. I thought this was like some made up story.
Yeah, but this was
reported and investigated. Like this actually, at least there is a file where this happened.
But it's also the FBI writing it from being told from a porter who was told supposedly from a lady.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of
seems
telephone
cuckoo nut.
So she supposedly heads to Magnolia, Arkansas. She pretty much says, if someone is looking for this child, tell him
I'm going to be at my sister's visiting.
Tell her to come here. Right. So once they kind of pick up this clue, Jeffrey and the private investigator, they're like, "Hey, let's check it out." Private investigator goes to Magnolia, Arkansas. I guess it's a smaller town. He thinks she should be easy to find.
Somebody would have heard of this story.
Yeah, and a lady having 9 kids.
Yeah.
He starts asking around, going around the town. No one
has heard.
Nothing.
Which again makes me feel like, is it possible that this didn't happen?
Very possible. Very possible.
Even if you showed up to Myrtle Creek, Oregon and asked people around about some lady who has 9 children and showed up with another random, this story would get around in a small town.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially the kid growing up there.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyways, sorry. I got to sneeze. It's right there. I can feel it. It's there. Anyways, so that is their last clue.
That's their only clue. Last and only.
They think maybe she was just going to Arkansas to visit, and maybe she did live in St. Louis or Chicago.
Yeah.
But they just don't.
And she said, "Meet me in St. Louis."
So, anyways, that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
Yeah.
And you ready for your update?
Yeah, update.
Nothing.
I could not believe that when I read this.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was several people that commented on like the Unsolved Mystery reader board or unsolved.com asking if the guy has done a DNA.
Yes, obviously
kit.
they're hoping that would bring something.
He hadn't responded. There was no update as far as whether that is something they've ever looked into or anything at all like that.
You gotta think Jeffrey now is in his 70s. His brother, if he was still alive, would be 81.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the obviously the idea thrown out there is they should do this DNA, but you just got to hope that the 70 and 80-year-old does it too,
Mhm.
and that they get matched.
Or if he went on to have children, they would be
Yeah.
able to connect it through that.
Yeah. So, but unfortunately, there's not a
Nothing.
lot on this. There's some Reddit forums, some readers, a lot of people commenting, but not a lot of
But
facts.
not even commenting with anything other than just random opinions.
But as of what we know today, they never found. And here's the thing: this kid would never know.
Yeah.
He would have no idea.
No, not unless someone said, I got you at a train station.
Yeah. And then saw this and heard about this somehow or some way.
Yeah.
And knew about it. But yeah. So unfortunately, nothing.
Okay. Well, there's that. All right. Quickly before I get into my story, just wanted to remind everybody we are doing our Ben's Costume Halloween contest where we're trying to reach some download goals. So make sure you're following and subscribing to us wherever you download your podcast. Share us with your friends, family, loved ones, coworkers, whoever.
Cat,
And
dog, animals.
get the cats and dogs involved. Play us in the barn.
Absolutely.
While you're out milking the cows. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love all animals.
Animals.
Yeah, they should also be big fans of this podcast.
Definitely.
I'm big fans of theirs.
They have a podcast?
Just of animals in general.
They should have a podcast. What do you think their podcast would be? If a cat had a podcast, what do you think?
It would just be insults about how stupid humans are and how inconvenienced their lives are because we are in it. But also, we should do better at our jobs of taking care of them.
Meow.
And then the other thing you can do to help with our contest is review us anywhere with a 5-star review. And if you put in the review what costume you would like Ben to wear, we will add that to the tally. And I actually went back and listened to the very first time I proposed this to you. I included that caveat and you didn't say anything. So
I didn't catch it.
Lost your rights to say anything.
That.
There's no vetoing. It's already out there.
I veto that stipulation.
Nope. So follow us on social media because that's where I'm keeping track. I have a little tracker counter thing that I'm going to fill in and highlight as we get closer to our download goals. The other thing you guys can do, if you would love to support us so that we can continue to grow, there is a support the show button in your show notes and you can pledge $3 a month. It doesn't get you anything yet except for your name being read and a silly story about that you can put a favorite 90s memory or your favorite episode of Unsolved podcast or Unsolved Mysteries. That's what we talk about here. And I will read it to the people. Okay. Anything to add to that, Benjamin?
No.
Okay. I'm going to tell you about a drug lord.
Ugh.
And I'm going to be honest with you. This guy seems like he is living a pretty good life and making some good income. So I'm not mad about it.
I think if the opportunity arises, you would have been in the
100%.
You totally would have gotten into
absolutely.
That line of work.
Yeah. If there's even a drug lord out there now that just needs like a secretary or just like some side work done that doesn't involve anything.
What if they need you to go around and throw shoes on the power lines to let people know?
You know how I feel about that. I can't be privy to anything. I need to be blissfully unaware.
So you want to be a secretary, but you don't want to know what's going on in the business.
Exactly. I don't need to know anything that's going on in the business.
You just want the paychecks to roll in.
Yeah. Okay. So 38-year-old Pedro was Colombian.
I'm sorry. What's his name?
Pedro. It's Pedro.
It's not Pedro.
What is it? Pedro?
Pedro. Nope.
Pedro.
No.
Pedro. Yerby. Pedro Yerby. Was Colombian with direct ties to the Medellin cartel. That's definitely not how you say that, but I don't know a lot about cartels. Medellin. Oh, that sounds very venomous.
Venomous.
That's not the word. Anyways, it's been a long day, but we are here.
We're in it.
He was the leader of, get this, a suburban New Jersey drug ring. that he was a bougie drug ring guy in the suburbs. Okay. He sold and manufactured our favorite 80s drug, cocaine, pixie dust, fairy dust, nose dust. That's the only, pencils, lines. That's what I was looking for. Lines. Yeah. Cocaine. Cocaine was a big hit in the 80s. We missed the boat on that one.
Don't do cocaine.
Don't do cocaine.
It's bad for you.
I watched Wolf of Wall Street. It didn't turn out well for everybody.
You watched that?
I've watched most of it, yeah.
Interesting. Never seen it.
They chose to reside in an affluent the suburb of Cliffside Park, New Jersey, because its isolation and security helped them cover up their illegal activities. So this drug lord was ruthless, as I think is kind of a baseline for most cartel people. He ran the drug ring by fear. According to one informant, one of the couriers lost 75 kilos. I'm guessing that's a lot of cocaine.
You're guessing.
What's a kilo? Is that how much it weighs?
You would
a kilogram.
You would not make a good secretary for this.
Well, is everything going to be in the different number system, metric system in the drug world?
Yeah, they usually do kilos and that.
How many kilos to a pound?
I don't know.
Okay, so is it a kilogram or just a kilo? You don't know. Okay.
I was going to let that sit out there.
Okay, so this person lost 75 kilos of cocaine, which apparently is a problem. And upon hearing this, Pedro had this man killed along with his entire family. Oopsie daisy, turned out that the courier was actually innocent and the cocaine was not lost. Whoopsie daisy. However, this just seemed to kind of add to the lore of this guy's persona. Okay. Did you look something up for me?
It's 2.25 pounds per kilogram.
Oh, so that's a lot of kilos. That's a lot of pounds. That's a hefty amount of cocaine.
They don't do it by pounds. They do it by kilos.
I know, but I'm converting it in my head, and that's a lot of pounds. Yeah. Man, how do you lose that much cocaine? I guess he didn't.
Drug bust.
Yeah. In May of 1986, the FBI set around-the-clock surveillance on several of the drug properties. They soon learned that in order to keep an appearance of normalcy in the suburbs, people posed as families and were shipped to the property to live there on the weekends. And in our reenactment, they're like playing outside and
playing ball,
wrestling and giving tickles to each other. And the mom's like, "Come in for dinner, guys." They like played the part for sure. And during the week, they even actually had like quote unquote babysitters that lived in the house that just like turned off different lights, had the TV going. Like this guy knew what he was doing. The problem that he ran into, if I had any notes for him, is, and as a secretary, this would have been something I could have been paying attention to.
Okay, all right.
He brought in different families every weekend. So if your house is under surveillance, they're going to notice that the dynamics of the family have changed every weekend.
That's where they went wrong. Not that
they needed a secretary.
Shuttling drugs.
Well, again, I'm completely unaware as to what is happening at the property. I'm just
What if it was just an Airbnb?
Exactly.
So there's a different family.
What if you ran it as an Airbnb on the weekends? That's double income.
Yeah, I think the kilo.
Should we not be giving ideas to drug lords?
I think the kilos is going to pay a lot more than the
yeah, but then
Airbnb.
You get people. Anyways, we don't need to give any criminal ideas out there for my genius plans. So this obviously starts to like raise some red flags that these families are changing out every weekend. But they did notice that the primary thing between these houses was a feature in real estate that we like to call a sought after feature or a must have. And this was an attached garage with an automatic door. Very big in the 80s. Brand new technology. It was all the rage.
What did this make you think of?
What did this
This
make me
whole
think?
story of these houses and that.
Do you really want to know what it made me think of? Because it's not going to be what you made you think of.
I 100%.
The garage door and the opening up in the key made me think of Scream. Remember when the girl gets caught in the garage door? Spoiler alert.
This didn't make you think of our last house.
No. Our last house was a single story with a garage. The same as this house is.
Our neighbor told us the story of what our house used to be.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
So we live close to the border.
Mm-hmm.
And our neighbor works for Highway Patrol when we lived in that house. And he came and told me one time that our house, for a short time, was a smuggling house.
A stash house.
A stash house for
the cartels here.
For the weed.
Yeah, for the mayor of the Wantas.
They said there would be a different car that would come
Devil's lettuce.
So a different car would come in.
The smoking dragon.
Come in the garage, and then it would leave a few days later. He said it was always a different car. And then, because that house was a rental for a long time.
Yeah, it was.
And then someone, like a year later, found some old weed in the house.
Score.
Yeah, and I think the sheriff's office, the highway patrol
this is
came
the best
in.
day ever. I just found a kilo of the marijuana.
Sierra's not calling the police.
I shall not be calling the police. They don't need to know about this. Is a waste of their time nowadays. This is legal now.
All right.
Okay. So, this allowed them. The other thing this made me think of is it's very dangerous to pull into your garage and close the garage door before you turn your car off. It really made me nervous that they did that in the reenactment. But but the big thing here was that they could transport stuff into the garage, into the house behind closed doors. You see how that works?
I do.
Okay.
I caught on.
You got what they were laying down?
What they were trying to do.
So on top of using the houses as the base, he also developed a simple, foolproof money laundering scheme. They purchased a car wash. No. Low-level operatives nickname Smurfs. I'd love to know the backstory because it's probably going to be that Pedro's actually loves the cartoon Smurfs. Do you think?
No, I don't think
that's his one silly goose thing he likes to do.
Silly goose.
He likes to watch the Smurfs. They were dispatched from the house to the banks throughout the New York area. And they would use small amounts of illicit, was the word they used, cash to buy legitimate money orders from different banks all over the city. At the height of the operation, there were several Smurfs identified that were laundering about $50,000 a day. During 5 days a week, they could launder up to $2 million a week. I am in the wrong industry. This money laundering business seems like not the worst idea.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
Drugs and money laundering, which is not putting money into the washing machine. I learned that.
That's not what money laundering is.
At some point. Mm-hmm.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not.
No, the point is that when you get all this cash and you're not doing it legitimately, the government would like their taxes. That's literally this whole thing.
The whole thing.
So you have to wash it. You have to clean it through the bank so that it gets processed, and then it's clean money when it comes out the other side. So that's smart. You take it into a bank, you get a money order. No one cares if you are asking for $1,000 money order or $980 money. You go to several different banks over the day. Bada bing, bada boom, done.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, that's how you. The FBI is probably onto it by this point. It's probably not as easy anymore. So the FBI knew that he was dealing drugs and money laundering, but they had yet to prove that he was dealing cocaine from the house. However, one day they got lucky. On September 3rd, 1986, outside of one of the safe houses, agents observed a person pull up and they failed to pull into the garage.
Garage door opener was broken.
Or they got nervous about getting trapped in there and not being able to turn their car off.
Yeah, probably. That was probably it.
So they got to witness them taking in boxes which they believed had cocaine inside. The FBI decided to go in hot to try to catch them red-handed. So the following night, they bust down the doors. FBI, open up. Everybody has a gun. Everyone has got guns. It's chaos in the house. People are flagging each other. They're waving their guns around. They're opening up drawers. The microwave stuffed full of cocaine. There's cocaine falling out all over the place. Throwing this chick on the floor. Clear, not clear. That was the reenactment for you.
It was, I was like, the reenactment was wild. Because here's the
And scene. Arch, was that a...
I am impressed.
Thank you.
Very good. It was a great job. And I thought of that. I was like,
it was...
why are you searching so fast?
I know.
What is transpiring?
The cocaine is magically
that you have
going
to open
disappear.
up every... They go into the kitchen and they have their guns waving around.
Yeah. They are waving guns at each other. They're just willy-nilly everywhere.
He's ripping the cupboard doors just open as
almost
fast
off
as
the
he
hinges.
can.
Like, yeah.
And I'm like,
and every time he
why?
sees cocaine, he's like, we got at least 2 kilos here. We got this.
I'm like, don't
the
you just
reenactor,
secure the place
the
and then
actors
do the
acted
search?
as if they had done a little bit of cocaine before they went in for this raid.
I'm watching this and I'm saying, I'm worried. I'm worried
concerned.
for everybody.
Yeah, everyone here is
involved.
in danger. Yeah.
Let's bring it down. Let's slow it down here.
That's your
Cocaine
notes?
is not running out of the house on its own.
Yes, it is.
It's going to stay in the cupboard. You can open it actually really slow and it's right there.
You're not going to scare the cocaine?
No, especially the ones in the microwave.
They're not going anywhere.
They're not jumping out.
Yeah.
Just chill. Take
it down a notch.
Take it down a notch.
That's how the marijuana gets missed.
Well, that's how people get hurt,
yeah.
man. Just calm it down.
Everyone take a breath. Yeah. All right. So sorry if I freaked everybody out with that crazy reenactment. There's actually not FBI. It got
wild.
There's not FBI agents in the room with you. You're fine. Everyone is safe.
There's no cocaine in the microwave.
There's no cocaine in the microwave. But guess what? How many kilos did they find?
5.
307 kilos of 95% pure cocaine. This is some money. That's a lot of cocaine.
Secretary got arrested. Everybody.
No, the secretary did not get arrested because she didn't know what she was secretarying.
But she had good ideas for him.
She had great ideas. And she looked cute while doing it. And she had cute pens. Okay. So at the time, this would have been worth over $7 million worth of cocaine on the streets. They searched the other safe houses, and one, they brought in a specially trained dog who was very interested in the potted plants, as I would have been. This was a beautiful plant that they had. This is big, beautiful, like, tree. But upon further examination, the dog found $800,000 in cash sprinkled with cocaine all over it that attracted the dog's attention to it. You got to clean your money. You have to launder it, but you also can't have cocaine on your money. That's a problem.
They didn't wash it in the washing machine.
Nope. They did not. So now it's now believed that he traveled between the United States and Colombia back and forth. He was last sighted in New Jersey in 1989. So that's why we're here. Where is Pedro?
He's wanted.
Pedro is MIA. 3 of his counterparts are also Colombian nations, and they have been identified as Hugo, Luis, and Ivan. That feels like that could be like a whole thing with those
Huey,
3
Dewey,
names.
and Louie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It is believed that they had all fled back to Colombia, but the FBI has reason to believe that maybe the Arango brothers are back in the New York area from time to time, and that another one of the henchmen, Miguel, is believed to be in the Los Angeles area. Pedro is 5'8" and has brown hair and brown eyes. So there's your description. Very helpful.
5'8", short guy.
Yeah. Short king is what we call him now. And he was born in 1954. All right. Update. Still at large. Never been caught.
No.
As of today, is not listed on FBI, but is listed as a wanted fugitive on the DEA's website.
He's dead.
Ben's theory is that if someone else got in trouble for 75 kilos of cocaine
When
that just
he went back
missing,
to Colombia and he lost.
this guy got in trouble. He got his hand in the microwave jar and lost 307 kilos.
Plus almost $1 million in cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
It was time for the secretary to take over.
Yeah,
she's now running the operation, and everything's been fine since then.
So now she knows what the operation
Yeah, but
is.
she's not getting caught because Pedro's an idiot.
That's because they use different families.
Exactly. All right. So, I don't know, kind of a fun, lighthearted one in the fact that don't do cocaine. Don't do coke. And then we don't need drug dealers because nobody's buying the cocaine. All right. Benjamin. You look confused at your notes right now.
Yeah. I don't know if I spelled the name wrong. So pause it for a second.
All right. BRB. Okay, so you realize that you spelled something wrong on your notes.
I just wanted to
But
make
here's
sure.
I'm just making an observation. You don't need to correct it. Because will you just remember for the rest of the time telling the story?
Yes. Absolutely.
Our brains are different. I would have forgotten within seconds.
It was a simple mistake.
Okay.
It's
It
very
doesn't matter
easy.
how simple a mistake is once.
This
Yeah.
is going to be a quick story,
Okay.
and it's an awful story. Okay, but
Yeah.
Robert Stack tells us the police in Utah had actually come to Unsolved Mysteries for this because they've been trying to solve this murder of a 3-year-old little girl called Rachael Runyan.
Who was she looked like a baby doll.
She's adorable.
Yeah.
So August 26, 1982, 3-year-old Rachael Runyan was abducted from a playground just outside her house. And literally he tells the story in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, he's telling it. They're not showcasing the story. There's just pictures being told, shown. It's not a full segment. He's just passing along something that the police have asked for help with.
24 days later, her body was found 20 miles away.
Makes me sick.
Yeah. And they say an eyewitness had described the man that they saw abduct her out of the playground was an African-American man between 20 and 30, about 6 feet tall. They show a sketch of him.
Yeah.
So they're looking for him. They say a while later, there was a note in a bathroom stall that said, I'm still at large. I'm the one that killed the Runyan girl. And then there's an upside down cross with 666.
Yeah, this is during the Satanic Panic.
Yeah, so they think, is this part of a satanic cult? They don't know.
No, it's not.
But they did say they also had gotten a tip from
this just makes it worse.
It really does. From an informant. And that the girl was kidnapped and used to make a
child exploitation video.
Yeah. A snuff film.
Yeah.
So they show a picture of her in the outfit that she was kidnapped in and said, this is the exact opposite.
She could not be any cuter in those outfits either.
If anyone has seen her or you're
They're
a
asking
horrible
if people
human
have
being.
seen this video.
Yeah. And if you have, you're a terrible human being, but you should call the police.
Yeah. Good luck.
Her.
Yeah.
So that is literally
that's it.
All they tell us. They do not give us details because it's an active investigation. And so, yeah. Ready for your update?
I don't want to hear the update.
No, you don't. Still unsolved. The mom is still very involved. I read some articles. She literally does an art context and has newspapers that do an article like every couple of years, like 2018, 20, 24. There's been articles.
Is there more information out there as far as could we potentially do an entire episode on the story, the timeline, anything?
I'm sure that here's the thing. We're in a lot of podcasts. I'm sure all you,
all my podcast peoples.
Yeah. There's multiple other podcasts I'm sure you guys listen to that has done this story.
Okay.
So if you're more interested in more of the details, I didn't look into the more of the details of the actual case. I was just looking for updates, if it had been solved or if they've made any headway.
How can they not? I'd like to know, is there any sort of DNA preserved, anything at all like that they can test?
The one thing I had read is that because it was 82, they tried to do some DNA, and back earlier, it took a lot more. And so they ended up using up a lot of that stuff or destroying it, that. But here's the thing. The police have been active and are still to this day.
There's an active investigation going on.
The chief of police pretty much came out. He's done several interviews and said, listen, this has been on my mind, and this case is a top priority for me. From what I could tell, he is still very passionate about it. Her mom is still very involved. She had started a program in Utah. She is pushing, and the family is pushing. It's terrible. I really wish it was solved.
Okay.
But it's not dead. No one is forgotten about her, and the police seem to still be trying to.
Did you find a tip line or anything? Any information on that?
No, I didn't look it up.
Okay. I'll try to look it up. I'm sure
it's out there. And so it's terrible. And I'll say this, a lot of things, because people are like, what was a 3-year-old doing at a playground? This playground, she was with her brother. This I did find out.
Yeah.
The playground was literally in the backyard of her house, to the point where the mom said she could see the playground from her kitchen window. So she was back there. She was with her brother.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people need to understand, in big neighborhoods like in Utah, we see people's backyards. They might have like little side fences, but a lot of times the backyards, we saw this in Tennessee, are completely wide open.
Yeah.
And you might have a row of 10, 12, 15 houses. They might have a little pavilion, and then their entire backyard is open. And typically at the end of that, there is some either sort of like wooded area or playground or something that a lot of the families can all have access to. And yeah, your 3-year-old running around with their older sibling is not uncommon.
No, terrible story. Sorry to
bring it down a notch.
Yeah, bring a sad
Okay, so
story.
I've got the phone number for you.
Okay.
If you have any information about the 1982 abduction and murder of this beautiful little girl, please call the Sunset Police Department at 801-825-1620. Okay?
All right, there you go.
Yep. Okay, now on to my next story. Now I have to pull up my notes because I had googly up. All right. So
this one's wild.
This is a kind of a crazy story. It's a little long. I'm going to try to kind of get through it in a quicker pace. So, and if while I'm doing this, if I miss anything or you have any questions, feel free to interject. So this one's about the Gainesville killers. Had you ever heard about this story before?
Never.
I'd heard a little bit about it, but I didn't know a ton about it. So at the time, it was unsolved, obviously. But if anyone's hearing about this story and it sounds familiar, a lot of people in the world of true crime might have already heard this one. So the FBI is trying to unravel one of the bloodiest and cruelest crime sprees in the history of the Texas and Arkansas area. 4 people were murdered in 2 states in less than 24 hours. Perhaps the most frightening thing that the FBI is looking for is 2 teenage boys who've become the prime suspect. The crime spree started near Gainesville, Texas, that's the other thing too that was scary about these. These are like bedroom, couple hundred people communities. These are not big towns. So this is 30 miles north of Dallas, close to the Texas-Oklahoma border. At 10 a.m., March 7th, 1988, just outside of Gainesville, local electricians Tommy and Kenny noticed 2 teenagers poking around their father-in-law's white Lincoln Centennial. Davis says that he noticed one of the teenagers had blonde hair and was looking into the car as if he was looking around for a set of keys. Matthew and Davis flipped a U, went up the driveway towards the father-in-law house, stopped the two teenagers, asked them what they were doing. The blonde boy said that they needed to use a phone. Matthew told him there's no phone in that car and basically get on out of here. They send him up the road.
And get out of here.
Yeah. So the blonde teenager apologizes and says, actually, we'll just head to the nearby store to use the phone. Matthews, who's interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries, says that the teenagers did not look or act violent. They didn't get aggressive with them. They just looked like they were teenagers bored, getting into mischief. Okay? Not uncommon necessarily. At 10:15 a.m., the teenagers walked towards the intersection of County Road 131 and Route 6. Around 11 a.m., just 200 feet away from the intersection, 23-year-old Dana Woodward and her 1-year-old son were returning home. They lived in like a trailer on a piece of property. Once inside, she put her son on the couch, and as she entered the kitchen, she was attacked by the teenagers. At 1:10 p.m., her husband returned home from work to discover her body. She had been hit in the head and brutally stabbed and nearly decapitated.
With the 1-year-old there.
With an axe.
Yeah.
Along with a hunting knife that was found next to her body. Thankfully, the child was unharmed.
Wild.
So, to the FBI, this is not just like they went in and broke in and ended up because the lady refused to give them the keys to her car or something. And this was a violent overkill, is what, is it crazy? So we have the FBI agent interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries, and he says that there's no major signs of forced entry. They believe these boys were kind of using the ruse of knocking on someone's door and asking, hey, our car broke down. Can we use your phone? Sort of put, which oddly enough, here locally, we had that happen Christmas Eve. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, we had a man knock on another man's door on Christmas Eve and said, hey, I'm so sorry to bother you. My truck broke down the road. Can you hop in your truck and kind of help me get this figured out? And he did. And they ended up taking that man's life. Yeah. It was terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah, this is also why people don't answer their doors anymore to people.
That's why people don't trust anyone anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So he said that there was evidence, though, of a struggle inside the trailer. There was broken glass. The mirror had been kicked off the wall. And after killing her, it appears that 2 of her guns were stolen. And they drove off in her 81 Thunderbird. They headed towards Highway 82. They drove 60 miles to the small rural community of Farmersville, Texas. The FBI agent believes that they panicked after killing Diana and decided to drive as far as possible from the scene. He said it didn't get any better from there. The further they drove, the more involved they became, and the more killing took place. Midway through the afternoon, the killers approached a Farmville farmhouse 85 miles of Cecil and his 62-year-old son. It is suspected that the killers used the same ruse, asking to use a telephone, and forced their way into the Morrisons' home. They stayed in the house for between 1 to 3 hours, savagely torturing and beating these 2 men with a wooden club and tire iron from the car.
Golly.
They killed the Morrisons by shooting them in the head. Their bodies were discovered later that evening. So the FBI agent comes back on and is like, he's saying the same thing. He's confused. Like, this is not a quick killing. This didn't seem like this was done because they needed food or shelter or some sort of panic. They took their time with this.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole story is just wild, and it kind of it's shocking.
Yeah, and he's like, we don't know why these 2 boys decided to beat these people and torture them. However, at 5 p.m., a neighbor saw the teenagers matching the killer's description getting into the Morrison's beige 84 pickup. Shortly after, they drove heading east. Mysteriously, by that point, the Thunderbird had disappeared, so they switched vehicles. At 9 p.m. in Saratoga, Alaska, 200 miles from the farm, Arkansas. That would have been quite a feat to get to Alaska.
That's a lot.
Arkansas, 200 miles away from the farm, the killers drove the stolen truck. Again, this makes no sense. So stupid.
Nothing about this makes sense.
That's the thing. This is chaos. They drive this man's truck into the shallow waters of the lake and yeet Diana's guns into the lake.
And as they're telling us, I'm like, there's no rhyme or reason what these guys are doing. They're just out on a massive, horrific rampage.
Yeah.
But to the point where law enforcement probably hasn't been able to put most of this together yet.
No.
So no one's quite hunting
and that's
them
it.
yet.
It didn't seem like they ran out of gas on any of these vehicles. They've switched cars now. Like they had weapons, but they used a tire iron. Like just it's chaos. It doesn't make any sense. Now they've driven the truck intentionally into a shallow part of the water and just walk off. So, a prescription bottle with her name and her necklaces were found in the truck, though. So they took some items from her car into the truck, but then throw her guns.
But then left it in the truck.
But then leave it in the truck, yeah. By 9:45, an eyewitness saw the killers 3 different times as he drove his own truck back and forth through the Saratoga area. By 10 p.m., the killers had walked 3/4 of a mile to the trailer of the 4th victim, 29-year-old railroad worker Kenny. Kenny Olden. He was hanging out at home with his girlfriend. They were watching a movie together. And she's interviewed in this. It just makes me feel sick to my stomach. So they hear a knock on the door. He answers it, finds these 2 boys at the porch. The blonde boy says, "Hey, my car broke down. We could use some help with it." Kenny invites them into the house, has like a conversation with them, says, "Yeah, let me grab my sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And a flashlight. Let's go take a look at this."
Offers to drive them back.
Drives
and
them.
help them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It was late at night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was 10 p.m. Yeah.
Nice guy. Clearly.
Well, and that's even his girlfriend says he would have never invited them into the house, let alone taken them somewhere if he had gotten any kind of like off vibes, which makes you freaked out. These boys were so completely cut off that they acted like this was normal behavior, that they were able to go from what they just did to acting totally cool.
Yeah. Scary.
That is scary. So she says that they go through the kitchen door. She looked out the window, sees the three people get into Kenny's tan 1983 Mustang. It was a sweet car. And that was the last time she sees her boyfriend alive. Unfortunately, she didn't get a good look at the killers' faces. By 10:15, Kenny had driven the killers off the road to the Millwood Dam about 5 miles from the trailer. They'd convinced him to get out of the car, saying that they're likely that the car had broken down just around the corner. They then shoot him and make their getaway in his car. The next morning, his body is found along the road near the dam. He had been shot 3 times.
Golly.
So they left the truck in the lake just to go get another one.
Just to kill someone to get another one?
By 9 a.m., 200 miles west of where Kenny had been killed, Oklahoma farmer Bud found Kenny's car. It had been driven into the River Brown Spring. So once again, driven into a body of water.
It and then they just ditch it.
Yeah. But he also noticed 2 sets of footprints that the killers had done a lot of walking in the road nearby. This guy was interviewed, and I thought he was like talking about tracking these guys. And I thought it was so funny because, as you know, tracking is like a lost art form.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because what did they say he was? Maybe he was I don't know if they gave his job, but he obviously did something where he either hunted or did something. And he like calls out their shoe size, says different things about them based solely on their walking, the prints the tracking that he did. Well, I thought that was kind of cool. That's a lost art form. In less than 24 hours, the killers had traveled 500 miles and made a full circle. They went from Gainesville, Texas to Farmersville, then Saratoga, and finally went back towards the Brown Springs, Oklahoma, less than 5 miles from where this had all started. FBI agent says the big question is, why would they return home after all of that? Like, they literally put themselves right back in the hot seat.
None of this makes sense, though.
Yeah, This led investigators to believe that they were dealing with someone from the area who obviously felt comfortable there, so they decided to come back. After killers had completed the deadly circle by dumping Kenny's car in the lake, they seemed to just kind of disappear without a trace. Authorities looked into the possibility that they had robbed a bank in Oklahoma on the morning of the murders. However, that was ruled out. 3 days after the murders, 2 hitchhikers, aged 17 and 20, were arrested in Oklahoma and brought in for questioning. They claimed that they had been hitchhiking through Texas over the last few days. The same day, another man in Texas was taken into custody because he matched the description of the blonde boy and tried to flee when someone asked him if he needed help while he was out on the country road. However, physical evidence found at the scene did not match any of these people. They're all released. So they're out there looking for these people.
Yeah.
Authorities checked with local high schools to see if any students were absent on the day of the murder. However, that didn't bring anything up. 4 months into the investigation, an important clue turns up. Cecil Ford's grandson found an earring that the FBI believed was left. The boys had their ears pierced by the killers, left in his grandfather's truck. The earring depicts a skull being carried by a bat. The FBI agent says that finding the earring was another break in the case. A photograph of the earring was actually ran in the local papers, and 16-year-old resident Lee Renfro came forward and identified the earring that actually belonged to him. However, during questioning, he told the police that he had lent his earring to a friend named John, who at the time lived in a house less than 200 yards from the trailer. However, John's family had moved out of state a month before the murders. It just kind of takes him into a big circle. Pause this. We do get an interview from John. And I just thought this was funny because every guy that I know complains about having to share his things. They don't like to share their clothes. They get mad when their wives put on their shirts. Yada, yada, yada.
Yada, yada, yada.
Okay? So I'm just saying, I thought it was interesting that this guy starts talking about that him and his buddies like swap earrings all the time with each other and like borrow each other's earrings and stuff, which just seemed counterintuitive to all the information I have from the men in my life is that they don't like to share their things with people.
Interesting.
Do you have any comments to add to this, Ben?
I think it's weird to sharing earrings.
What about t-shirts?
I don't care.
Sweatshirt. Oh, you don't care?
Don't care.
Sweatshirts?
Don't care.
Interesting.
Don't care.
You're such a liar. All right. So John says that Lee had given him earrings in the past and he'd borrow them and take them every once in a while. And if he didn't want one, however, he's not sure what happened to the earring. They passed them around between these boyfriends, these friends that were boys all together. On the morning... I don't know how else. They were just a group of boy friends that shared earrings with each other. So there you go. On the morning of the murder spree, witnesses had seen 2 teenage boys matching the description of the killers walking away from the Colwell house. Other than the robberies, authorities have been unable to come up with any motive at all. However, the FBI would really like this case to be solved because this is a tiny little community and they're worried that these killers are just out walking amongst them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Update.
Captured. Actually, before the original story even aired. Did you read that?
No.
Okay.
I honestly didn't do a ton of research on this one.
Okay, so shortly before the story aired, authorities arrested 2 young men from Gainesville, Texas for the murders. 19-year-old William Glenn Harry was arrested February 1st, 1990, after investigators matched his fingerprints with those found in Kennedy's abandoned car. He had originally been arrested 2 days after the murder, but was let go due to lack of evidence. 9 days later, February 10th, 1990, Henry's accomplice, 20-year-old David Lee Crockett, yes, Davy Lee Crockett. Oh, those parents. That was rude. This man is not a good guy, but that was rude. It's Davy Lynn Crockett. They knew exactly what... That song's been around for a while, right? Davy
Yeah.
Crockett's been a thing for a long time,
Yeah, sure has. Since Davy Crockett.
which was like during the 1800s.
Where did he?
Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier, right? So wasn't he why do I keep wanting to say he wore like the animal skins? He was a fur trapper, I believe.
Where did he die?
I don't know.
Remember the Alamo.
Oh, the Alamo. Okay, yes. Okay. So this guy's name is Davy Crockett, was arrested after confessing to authorities about his involvement in the murders. The next day, February 11th, he led authorities to the small lake less than 2 miles from Morris's home, where they found Diana's car buried beneath several feet of mud and silt. So these boys' fascination with driving things into the water is weird to me. April 12th, 1990, Henry pled guilty to 3 counts of first-degree felony murder in the case of Diana and the Morrisons. He was also sentenced to 2 consecutive life-term prison sentences. 2 months later, Crockett pled guilty and was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. In March 91, Henry and Crockett both pled guilty to Kenny's murder and were each given an additional life sentence. In 1997, Crockett was he was convicted of being in possession of a deadly weapon while in prison and given an additional 10 years. February 2005, Henry was denied parole. He had been denied parole 7 times since then. He will not be eligible again until April 2025. I looked it up. He is currently on the parole review process. His case is pending, so I don't know if he'll be released yet or not. Crockett will not be eligible for parole until December 2030.
No, they should never
They should never, because you know what? I looked. First off, one of these dudes, I think it's Crockett, has like a Facebook page where he's like trying to get people to like write him and like get girls. But you know what they've never done in any of the cases? There's no information about why they did this. What was their motive? They've shown zero empathy.
Wait, yeah, that was what I was curious if they've ever come out and
Nothing.
Have they actually even ever come out? I mean,
no, even when the guy is interviewed, it's a poor me story.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Not a poor me for the 4 people that you just left dead for no reason.
For no reason.
No. These people should never, both of them should never see the light of day again.
You know what it probably was? They were probably playing Dungeons and Dragons.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
No.
I was watching a TV show recently that showed a group of kids playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they're the outcasts. They are the weirdos.
Don't try that. Don't. No. Me and my children are watching Stranger Things right now, and we're having a great time doing it.
No, for anyone who missed that, that's total joke. I do not believe that in any way, shape, or form playing a board game has anything to do with going on a murder spree. But in the 80s and 90s, that was sometimes talked about.
I don't know. These kids are a danger to society.
Yeah.
And should never, I mean, obviously they're not kids anymore. They're, but they should never see the light.
No, they're human garbage bins and they can stay out with the trash. Yeah. Nobody wants them back here. They can stay where they are. And the least that they could do is take some ownership over their choices.
It was a wild story.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Ben, what do you have for us?
All right. I got a story of what's called the Sweetheart Swindler.
We got another Sweetheart Swindler.
We're try to lighten things up a little bit here after those 2 terrible stories. All right. This is a story we're going to be told. Lady, she doesn't want people to know who she is. We have an
anonymous source.
Fair. After you hear the story.
Mm-hmm.
This happens in Missouri. That's all they tell us. It's not Missouri. But
people of Missouri, please weigh in.
You keep saying that.
Missouri.
All right. I'm not having this debate with you again. All right. Sarah's going to tell us about her 5-day romance. You heard that right, people? A 5-day romance.
Sorry, I just choked on my water. I'm going to laugh through this because I watched this episode with our 13-year-old daughter in the room, and her comments, I should have
Were
recorded
common
them.
sense.
Her comments while we're hearing, you guys can only imagine what a 13-year-old who has opinions about everything
She does, for
was
sure.
saying about this woman's choices over the next 5 days.
So Sarah, I'll put that in parentheses. She tells us, so she's sitting at home one night, she gets a phone call. And it's a gentleman on the phone, and he says, "Hey, do you remember me? We met about a year ago. His name is Jerry Gamble." Okay.
And does
And
that ring a bell when he
Yep.
says that
and she says, "I don't remember you." Not ringing any bells, but whatever. She decides, you know what? Let's have brunch the next day. She says, "I haven't been on a date for a while. So sure, why not? We're going to go to brunch the next day." So they do. And at brunch, she says she's still even seeing him, talking to him, does not remember where she met him, but he just wins her over.
That's what we call a red flag, people.
There's a lot of red flags here,
Yeah.
and you'll see why. But she says, "I just forgot about it. I didn't really try to put it together because he just won her over." All right.
Because he was so good looking?
Debatable. Okay. So she decides, you know what? After brunch, let's keep hanging out.
She did not want the date to end.
No, they spend the day together.
Yeah.
Okay. So he proceeds to tell her, this is his story. Okay. He's in the jewelry
Yeah,
business.
they're getting to know each other, sharing what they do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in the jewelry business, and he's on the road all the time with
So
a company
busy.
car and a driver. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I
This
have
is
a
important.
driver and a company vehicle.
But he says he had sent his driver to another city close by
Mm-hmm.
to run some errands. So they take her car. That makes sense, right? Right? I have all this stuff, but I don't have it.
I
with
have
me.
everything. I just don't have it with me.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
he proceeds to start telling Sarah that he's lonely. He's been looking for someone to share his life with and to take someone traveling with him, because he has this hard life. He tells her about how he travels to all these cities and he stays in these luxury hotels and he eats at all these
Wines
nice
and
restaurants.
dines. He's got all this money. He
has
know
all these
what to
diamonds in his
do
pocket
with.
that he
Yeah.
doesn't know what to do with.
As one would be sad with this life.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
and he says,
Absolutely.
he says, Sarah is just the woman he's been looking for.
This is after
day one.
day one.
Nope, not after day one.
No, the
This
end
is
of this is yes.
Not even the end of day one.
Oh, they're on their after brunch walk.
Yeah. So she says, you know what?
I feel the same way.
Let's go to dinner. And Sarah invites her daughter there to dinner because
she just met the man of her dreams.
Day.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
We shouldn't be victim blaming, but it's really hard
I'm not victim blaming.
No, I feel
I'm
terrible for this woman. However, we do have to laugh at some of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. I'm not trying to say anything about her. And first off, I don't even know who she is. So
yeah.
This story, it just keeps getting wild. But Sarah tells us, so they go out to dinner that night. They bring her daughter and he wins her over. And at dinner, he starts pulling out diamond rings. And Sarah's like, can I try that? And he's like, yeah. And
jewelry's meant to be worn, especially by beautiful women.
Yeah.
And da-da-da-da-da. Yeah.
And in the reenactment, he says, you think that's big. You should see some of the other things.
These are little and compared to what I have back with my driver.
Yeah. All right.
But can you give me a ride somewhere real quick?
So they start planning their wedding.
Yes, you guys, you heard that. They don't just plan on seeing each other again or meeting for coffee. They start planning their wedding.
And he tells her, we're going to go on a road trip.
Yeah.
And
you're going to drive.
It's going to end with our marriage. Like, we're going to go on this road trip because I still have business to attend to.
We're going to drive across the country.
When we're done, we're going to get married. So they start planning it. So he then proceeds to tell her, hey, listen, I've got some checks coming to me. They're coming here, wherever he is. We don't know. And I'll just make them out to you. Here's some money. And why don't you take that money and you pay off some of your bills and get stuff squared away financially? I want to take care of you financially. You take all that so that we can then go on our road trip and plan our wedding, right? So she says, okay. Couple days later, he comes over and says the checks have arrived. And it's late in the afternoon, okay?
On what, a Thursday or a Friday?
I don't know.
It's near the end of the week, I thought, because
he just says they don't say it. I don't know. All he says is it's late in the afternoon, and these checks are from the East Coast, and she tries to cash them, deposit, and pull some money out, and the bank lady's like, "Well, I can't do that because the banks on the East Coast are already closed.
Yeah, so they can't call and verify that these checks can clear.
Funds and all that.
Yeah.
So the manager gets involved and he says, listen, Sarah has been a good customer. I know her personally. So I went and okayed it. So she deposits these checks and then pulls out $3,000 for what did I say this guy's name is? Jerry. All right. So they got $3,000 in cash in their pocket and they start heading to Nashville.
No idea where the driver is, though. We never get a follow-up.
They head to Nashville in her car. And
yes.
That's my other question. He literally told you that he has a company car and driver.
And luxury hotels and all this stuff, but none of that is yet to appear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the driver is missing at this point.
Sarah tells us she is excited about this because she loves a man that just takes control. That's what she says.
Same girl.
So I wanted to put that in there for you, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right.
And I feel bad for this lady because this man obviously knew what he was doing, but she talks about how she has not had the best of life or the best of luck in love and the best of luck in finances. And all of a sudden, this man serendipitously walks into her life and wants to take care of her. And she's like, she says, it was nice to think that it was finally my turn to be taken care of. That I was going to get to see some things and experience some things that I never thought I'd get to do. And here is a man promising to unlock all of those doors for me.
Fair. He tells her they're going to head to Nashville. He's got some business there. Then they're going to head to the East Coast. And he tells her, and I'm going to buy you a real engagement ring. How big engagement ring does he say he's going to buy her?
5 carats.
Yeah, 5 carats.
Which is like celebrity status diamond. That's insane.
Yeah. So they head and they stop in Memphis.
Red flag number 1.
Sarah's daughter even comes with them, right? And they're in Sarah's car. He says, I got some business to take care of. Meet me at the hotel. Tells them which hotel.
Come down to the lobby. Yeah, meet me in the hotel lobby. This whole romantic
So they go
thing.
to the hotel lobby and they wait and they wait and they wait. And pretty soon Sarah figures out she gets swindled.
This is when your butt falls out. This is a butt fall out moment. How long do you think?
I don't know.
That makes me...
I think you keep waiting because you don't want to accept the reality.
Have you ever been stood up on a date, let alone, like, this is far worse than that. But has anyone ever stood you up on a date before?
No, I've only had someone show up really late to my wedding.
Okay, that was accidental and that was unintentional. So just calm yourself.
Sierra was, 45 minutes late to our wedding?
I was like 15
To the
minutes.
point I was outside of the church pacing. And there was a part of me that actually thought you weren't showing up. I literally thought you had gotten
You had started to try to come to that realization.
Had gotten cold feet and said, I ain't doing it today. To the point your parents were even, your dad came and was like, hey, how's it going? And I think he was even thinking.
Was there even a part of you when you were thinking that this might be happening that you were like, I kind of knew this was always a possibility.
Yeah, 100%.
See, girls, that's what you need to do. You always need your man to be thinking there is a possibility.
Let's make this very clear for our viewers. I was much readier to get married sooner than Sierra was. I met Sierra and I knew pretty quick I wanted to marry her.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick. Sierra took a little more time to realize she wanted to get married.
I wasn't interested in getting
but
married.
It didn't matter. We got engaged
all.
and we were.
And I showed up.
Yeah, she did. Absolutely. But you were very late.
Well, you didn't know the chaos that the morning
I did not know. Here's the thing. There is a reasoning behind it. We're not going to get into the whole story.
Yeah, this is 2007. So this is not even like, I don't even think I had my phone on me like that. Like
no.
It was common to leave your house and not have your phone on you.
So I had no idea where she was or if she was showing up. But there was a small part. Not a
well, 45 minutes, yeah, you start to get a little, the armpits start tingling a little bit. The butt is getting a little clenched.
Yeah. Anyways, but no, I have not been stood up.
Yeah.
On a date. Have you?
No.
Okay. All right. Anyways,
seriously,
get back
who
to our
would have stood me up on a date?
Let's get back to our real story. Come to find out, Sarah goes back home. And the checks, I know this is going to surprise everybody, but they bounced. And so she come to find out. So she did. She filed a police report.
I will say, good on her.
Yep.
And the cop was very respectful, like in the last Lost Love one that we did, that this goes unreported all the time and that we need women to report these things. Yeah.
So he proceeds to tell us, listen, as I've been doing this guy he says, I have at least 22 cases over 15 states. And he goes, and I think that's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's nuts.
So they're looking for the guy. They show a picture of him from a bank surveillance cam.
Yeah.
And they said, they even tell he swindled a lady, didn't show up. She had invited 60 guests to an engagement party and he doesn't show up.
Yeah.
I mean, this
guy's ruthless when it comes to stuff like that. Because here's the thing. He could have gotten these women's attention without promising the stars and the moon. So
they say from what they have put together so far, he had swindled women out of at least $125,000. They think it's
different than the other guy did. He's doing it in small increments.
Well, he did it at $10,000 on one lady. I read into it. I mean, anyway, so that's where Unsolved Mysteries leaves us.
Okay.
Trying to find this guy. They want to bring him to justice.
Update.
Captured March 20th, 1991.
With a bag of diamonds in a luxury hotel room.
No.
No? Oh,
in Kenosha, Wisconsin, he was captured. Mm-hmm. And they said he had like 20 plus IDs on him from almost every state.
Yeah.
And everyone had a different name. They didn't even know his name. They originally said his name was this, but turns out his name was Alfred Barrackett.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Canadian national.
Oh, it's always the Canadians.
Yeah. And so he was charged with a ton. Fraud. Because
Canadians are charmers. We just love them. They're so cute.
I did come to find out. So he was targeting women that put ads out.
Yeah, I read
very vulnerable women that had put themselves out there.
He would even look through like obituaries. Like,
yes,
he was going after women.
He was a scumbag.
Yes.
And he went after the most vulnerable, found these very vulnerable people that is terrible because they put themselves out there.
Yeah.
Especially out at that time, it was harder to do that. You really had to make an effort. You didn't make a profile on whatever, Match.com in 5 minutes.
I think it's still cute that you said Match.com as if www.match.com.
I was never on Match.com.
/
Anyways, these women really had to get that courage out there and put themselves, and then he just
took advantage of it.
Completely took advantage of them and conned them out of so much money. Mm-hmm. So I found out he was sentenced to a couple counts, 240 months. And when it was all said and done, he'd been sentenced for 24 years.
Wow, that's for a scam. That's a
Now, I dug and dug.
Mm-hmm.
Could not find how long he actually served.
I guarantee you this man's still scamming if he's
And I tried to find him today.
Yeah, but
he has
a billion different aliases. Yeah.
This guy probably doesn't even know what his real name is.
Yeah.
He uses that name, Alfred.
Long gone.
Yeah, it is nowhere to be found out there. If someone does find it, let me know. I'm just curious of what this guy went on to do. He's older. At this time, they thought he was in his late 40s. They never do say.
Remember the scam guy that was scamming like women in retirement age homes and stuff? He was just as old as they were.
Yeah. This guy.
And every scammer we've covered, what do they end up doing the moment they're released?
Going right back to
it.
But the problem is it's hard to find because then they find a different scam. They use a different name. And clearly this guy's not afraid to go anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find out he had been released. How long he did, I don't know. He had appealed his conviction, and the fact of I read a whole thing where he was complaining that his conviction he felt was extremely harsh. 24 years for scamming people. I don't, dude. Whatever you're.
I say throw him in the lake with Okopoco. See what happens.
So, anyways, that he was captured. That what he went on to go do. He's a ghost now.
We're going to bring that back. We're going to bring back sacrificing men that make poor choices.
But he was captured and he did some time. There was some, because sometimes these scammers, they do like a year or two.
Yeah.
And get out. But he didn't.
Good. Well, I feel bad for those people. Okay. Well, that is the stories and the recap from season 2, episode 18. Of Unsolved Mysteries. We're still doing some digging and research about the missing segments of Unsolved Mysteries. Hopefully, throughout the summer, we're able to kind of get some more information on those. I've tracked down a source. My friend at Primetime Crime believes that she has some of the original DVDs from then. So she's doing some research for us. She's located not too far. I mean, like a day's drive from here. I'm really tempted to go up there and do some research. She also happens to be located in the same city that a certain group of boys from the back street are going to be doing a concert this summer. So I don't know that,
that sounds terrible.
I'll need to take place. Anyways. Okay. Ben, I have a really fun question for you.
Okay.
Who is or was your most unexpected celebrity crush? Someone that you're like, I don't know why, but I think that person's pretty good looking, even though maybe they're not your like iconically hot person. Do you need me to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
You go first.
So
I already know this answer. I know the answer to this.
I got dragged to the stupid Star Wars movies because I have a husband and 2 sons. I don't understand that universe. It doesn't make any sense to me. The movies are not in order. It does not work. All of the notes do not come together at the end. However, I was sitting there watching the new ones made by Disney and enter Kylo Ren.
Adam Driver.
What? Had some kind of hold on me. And if you lined him up with every other guy that I ever thought was good looking, every guy I've ever dated, the guy that I'm married to, like all of my other celebrities, like this guy could not be farther from Ryan Gosling if he wanted to be, right? He's like 6 foot something. He's crazy tall, lanky. He looks like Professor Snape, right? Like if you picture Professor Snape in your head from Harry Potter, Adam Driver is a perfect fit for it. True?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A younger version
yes.
of that.
And I like literally, I think you even looked over at me and I was like giggling or like, was like, I'm in love with this man. I have still to this day don't know what happened in any of those movies. But I love Kylo Ren in those movies. Adam Driver. So that to me, I'm even almost embarrassed to tell people that I think he's good looking because I think
People like, why?
what is wrong with you? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe I don't know. But so I was a little caught off guard, wasn't expecting it. But every time I've seen him in a movie since then, I'm like, hi. So that's my unexpected, weird, it doesn't make any sense celebrity crush. Did that help jog a memory?
No, I really got nothing for you. I
Okay.
don't really have.
Have you ever had, especially I guess, a cartoon crush that feels like same thing? Like this shouldn't be like this is a cartoon. I can give you one. I thought that the fox in Robin Hood was cute. Again, I'm feeling very vulnerable right now, you guys. I'm getting sweaty. Ben is laughing. These are things you probably never heard about. The Kylo Ren thing you did know.
I knew that one.
Yeah.
I knew that one was coming. And
I
that's
can't
all right.
explain it. I just thought he was a hot fox. I don't know what that says about me, but
maybe because he fights for the girl. He's willing to take
maybe
sacrifices.
that's what it is.
And
Then what is Kylo Ren? He doesn't fight for the girl.
He's
got daddy issues.
He's a dominating figure.
There you go.
That's what you like.
Yeah,
he's a dominating figure.
Okay.
I like Adam. I think he's a cool dude.
He did that one zombie movie with that guy that was funny.
Yeah, and that was super funny. I watched another one, Logan Lucky or Lucky Logan, something like that. He's super funny.
He's hilarious. His dry humor is awesome.
Yeah, I really like him.
Yeah, so Adam Driver, if you listen to this, feel free to slide into my DMs. So I think you're married, and I'm married too, but you know.
Hall pass.
Okay, so you never saw a cartoon was like, dang, that girl's got it going on.
I mean, obviously, I'm your typical guy. I mean,
I know exactly which one.
Jessica Rabbit.
Jessica Rabbit.
I mean, what boy did not watch that and say, "Holy smokes"?
I'm kind of into cartoons all of a sudden.
But is that an uncommon? No, I think every boy, and
I know, but I think there's a part of us that are like, this is weird because this is a cartoon.
It is weird,
right? You can't explain it.
It is weird and a little on the creepy
And you
side.
still think to this day that Jessica Rabbit is hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's a cartoon.
Yeah.
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 And it feels weird to say that out loud.
It does. But you know what? It doesn't feel that weird because I already know every other guy out there that grew up and saw that thought the same thing. And so we're all in the same boat. And anyone that says they didn't is a liar. But
I know watching that movie as a young female, I was like, I want to look like her when I grow up. I want to be just like Jessica Rabbit. I want everything about that.
Wild story.
I want that dress.
You are free to dress up like Jessica Rabbit. I am okay with that. 100% okay with that. Wild story.
Next year we're gonna do a download.
That one, you know what? We should do that for Sierra. Anyways, all right, we're getting off track here. Wild story. Let me tell you this. I was working with a very small fire department.
Oh.
Very, very small. And one of the EMTs shows up. Older gentleman. No joke. Has a massive Jessica Rabbit tattoo on his forearm.
Yeah.
Wild. Actually, and it's the outside of his arm, so not the inside.
Yeah, I know. And it was precariously.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go to that part. I'm just saying
there
wild.
was a purpose as to its location.
Yeah, but that's not what I mean. All I'm saying is it was wild that it literally went from almost his elbow down to his wrist.
Yeah. Use your imagination.
And I thought, wow, you're going to put that on your arm forever? Wild. Just thought that was cool. Anyways.
That'll be next week's question is there anything you would ever get a tattoo of?
No.
So.
Answer is no.
You guys got a bonus question. All right, guys, that is our show. We will see you guys back here next week where we recap another episode of
Unsolved Mysteries.
Bye.